becoming one of the youngest queens at the time of her coronation. Padme Amidala of Naboo was one of the most popular monarchs of her home planet during the latter days of the Galactic Republic. But during her reign, Queen Amidala encountered an entity that would change the rest of her life and would subconsciously impact her decision to remain as Queen of Naboo. In a tense escape from the Trade Federation, Queen Amidala and her convoy of guards and Jedi were forced to take a landing on the desert planet of Tatooine. Taking an interest in the planet, their queen's decision to walk to the settlement of Mos Espa would lead to an encounter with the powerful Force-sensitive Anakin Skywalker, regarded by Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn as the subject of the prophecy of the Chosen One. Also taking an interest in Anakin, the Queen helped the former slave to deal with his separation from Shmi, and despite calls for her to remain as Queen after her term ended, she took the challenge of becoming Senator. But what if Padme had remained as the Queen of Naboo? Who would become the Senator in her place? Would she still be married to Anakin? As you're going to find out, the extension of Padme's reign as Queen could have changed the fate of Naboo and the Jedi. In the royal palace on Theed, Padme was seated in the conference room, surrounded by her closest advisors, as they debated on whether she should remain as Queen. Her popularity and effectiveness had already given her 2 terms, and given the brewing danger in the Galactic Republic, she decided to extend her reign. After addressing her extension as the Queen, she needed to work on the delegation in the Senate, as the current Senator Van Seal wished to step down from his role. Following advice from Supreme Chancellor Palpatine and her advisory council, Amidala decided that Jar Jar Binks should represent Naboo, symbolising the integration of a multitude of species on her planet, but decided that he must be accompanied by a member of her council at all times. Back on Coruscant, the renewal of Amidala's reign and the appointment of Senator Binks was met by a wave of concern from the Jedi Order, as they knew that the Gungan was not blessed with a political background and could be easily manipulated. But for Anakin Skywalker, the absence of Padme had been torturing his mind, and he decided to seek answers from his mother on Tatooine. In the dead of night, Anakin snuck out from his quarters, and stealthily navigating the temple, he headed to the ship which he had personally modified, then set course for Tatooine. Landing in one of the spaceports of Mos Espa, the Jedi marched to the workshop of the Toydarian Watto, but to his surprise, it turned out that due to financial trouble, Watto had been forced to sell Shmi. Directing him away from the settlement to the Jundland Wastes, Anakin knocked upon the door of the Lars' home and finally saw his mother for the first time since he had been freed. She suggested to him to go to Naboo and talk to Padme herself when they received another knocking upon the door. Outside of the Lars' home was the Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi, tracking down Anakin after he had sensed his departure from the Jedi Temple and ordering him to return to Coruscant. His Padawan resisted and offered to only do so if he could bring back Shmi. Obi-Wan knew that Anakin could not be moved, and taking Shmi away from the Lars moisture farm, he provided Klieg with enough money to hire another worker before escorting her back aboard Anakin's ship. Directing his Padawan to Coruscant, Obi-Wan guided Anakin to the one person he could trust outside of the Jedi apart from Satine, and headed for the Collective Commerce District. There the Jedi Knight found his friend Dexter, the basilisk owner of Dex's Diner, who was willingly able to provide the former slave with work and organise accommodation for Shmi. Returning to the Jedi Temple, Anakin is grateful for his master for not telling the council of his expedition, but he still had the problem of what to do with Padme. Wisely deciding not to leave the temple without Jedi permission again, Anakin took the opportunity to speak to Chancellor Palpatine, who had invited a number of Jedi Masters to his office to discuss plasma energy trade from his old home planet of Naboo. With many of the Jedi unwilling to work with the difficult representative Binks, Anakin stepped forward and nominated himself to investigate with what Naboo had done with his expenditure. Yoda secretly regarded this as a test for the Jedi Padawan, as he felt that both he and Obi-Wan were ready to take the next step in the Jedi journey, and Anakin's excitement could not be contained as he took a small starship to Naboo. Allowed to dock in the hangar of the Theed Royal Palace, Anakin respectfully bowed to the Queen and her delegates, when the Jedi felt a tremor in the Force and beneath his feet. Queen Amidala used the communication system that was hidden in the seat of her throne, and after initially being met with silence, Boss Nass revealed that there had been an attack on Otoh Gunga. Organising an evacuation of the underwater city, Anakin observed from the bank of the lake when an intimidating looking ship landed on the other side of the bank. Out of it stepped the Dathomirian Asajj Ventress, and rolling out a canister of swamp gas into the lake, Anakin stopped it in the air with the Force and lifted it into his ship to examine later. Angrily igniting her blades, Ventress jumped across the water, forcing Anakin to block the Sith assassin, and the second stage of Anakin's path to a Jedi Knight had begun. That is it for part 1 of What If Padme Remained as Queen. If you'd like to see a part 2 soon, please like this video, turn on the notification bell, click that subscribe button on this channel, as well as on my other channel What If Films. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd all like to see next, and how I can improve my videos. Thank you all very much for watching, and see you next time.